Okay, yeah, and we're live. All right, so hi
All
everyone.
right.
Yeah,
So I'm Lauren of Lauren Lesley Studio and hi Design Tribe. It's been a while since we had a live call, but I'm so excited to introduce you to Danielle, who is a student in my Portfolio Surge um, course, and she's just been a rising star within the course. I absolutely love her pattern work. She has kind of a more hand drawn and hand painted approach to pattern design, which I absolutely love. And she just had some questions for me about being a fabric designer, and I wanted to kind of share with you guys because you might have some of the same questions. And so we're just going to go live today. If you have any other questions that come up, please type them into the comments and we'll answer your questions and comments at the end. So, Danielle, what are some of your questions for me?
All right, thank you for having me, Lauren. My first question is, so I'm trying to get a job in fabric design, but I reached out to someone through word of mouth, and he has his own company. He's doing a beautiful creative freedom dream that he's really doing himself. And I reached out to him for freelance work, and he said, I'm not doing freelance work right now, but I can help you start your own website on Squarespace. And for me, I wasn't really looking to do that. I was looking for more volunteer work or freelance work. So my question is for you, do you feel like that's worth it? Do you think I should try that? Do you think it's a waste of time or energy?
I do think that you should have a website at least just showcasing your portfolio. And so I do mine through Squarespace. But in terms of what he's asking you to do, he said something about being a ghost supplier for products that it sounded like you weren't that interested in. So can you tell us a little bit more about his business?
Yes, so he does fabric design and just design work for pretty much any product you can think of. It's not just clothing, but it's journals, it's wrapping paper, stationery. And so he was really saying you should start with something small first, because my desire was always to do day dresses, swimwear, to do my own patterns, and then to make and design it myself. And he was like, maybe you shouldn't really close yourself in just yet. Start with these smaller things like wrapping paper and stationery. Start there and then grow. Don't try and pinch yourself in. So I wasn't really excited about those things, but at the same time, I was like, maybe I should learn that first.
Yeah, so my question is why does he want you to start your own Squarespace website? Why doesn't he just ask you to design for his company if he's already selling the products?
I have a feeling that maybe he gets some incentive to have designers start their own website, and he might be able to get a kickback on being a ghost supplier. That was just my gut feeling, and so I was very hesitant on it. But at the same time, I thought maybe, oh, I could adjust my expectations, and it takes a lot of work to kind of get your foot in the door. Maybe I should give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, to me, it sounds a little bit unusual for him to ask you to kind of do the designing and the selling, and that he just wants to be the supplier. I mean, does is he selling to customers as it is? Like, does he have his own? Is his business successful, like as he's doing it now?
It's successful, and it's all his own design work. He does do collaborations here and there.
Okay.
But he said he likes helping artists and designers, and he would kind of be a mentor
Okay.
and teach me how to grow the
Okay,
website.
so he's basically wanting to train you to do what he did. Is that kind of the gist of it? Okay. And you're not really interested in that type of business model, is that right?
I think so, yeah. I think that was my gut feeling at first, but I thought maybe I should be open minded. Maybe I shouldn't, because I do like taking chances, because I do feel like you always learn something in the process, even if you're not necessarily learning something that you thought you'd learn in the beginning. If you stay open-minded, it could take you somewhere unexpected in a good way.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think if he was offering you an in-house position, I would say maybe yes, be open to wrapping paper and maybe other products, because you do learn a lot from that. But if he's not offering you an in-house position, I would say why not do the same thing that he's saying, but with products that you're interested, like fabric design, or at least just showcasing your portfolio. And I did want to share my screen with you and kind of, touch on a few tips that might help. So hang on just a second and I will share my screen. Okay, so one thing that you can look at is if you look at some different like fabric websites, they will have the manufacturers listed on their website. And so this is kind of just by it's in alphabetical order, but I would first encourage you, if you're really interested in designing fabrics, to reach out to all of these companies, either with your portfolio or telling them that you're interested in doing freelance work. I mean, there's a lot of companies here. So, I mean, at least just keep this as your plan B and not your plan A, right? And so, I mean, how many fabric companies have you reached out to before talking to him?
I mean, it's so obviously there's so many companies in New York and LA, but in Boston, where I'm from, it's very little. I have a very hard time making connections, especially because I didn't go to school for it. I went for fine arts. So it's been a challenge. Yeah. This has been the first person that I've gotten a response back from. So I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't a little eager to like take a chance on it. But also at the same time, I'm thinking I could start Squarespace on my own.
Of course, yeah. You
and do it that way.
Squarespace. Mm-mm. Yeah, so I mean, I'm a little bit questioning what he's actually bringing to the table here. He's wanting a cut, but he's not really providing that much value for you in terms of, I mean, you can go find a supplier on Alibaba. Like, you don't need him to supply anything for you and then take a cut. So that's kind of silly to me. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a degree in textile design either. I was a studio art major as well. So I understand what you're saying. I do, from seeing your design work, I absolutely love that it's all hand painted and like you bring this aesthetic quality to it and it's very stylized, and I absolutely love your style. I would say maybe, and you tell me if this is right or wrong, but you might need to kind of sharpen up some of your software skills in terms of like Photoshop.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So if you want to get it, so if you want an in-house job, I would say you definitely probably need to work on that a little bit. And maybe that's more of your next step rather than like working with him. And just trying to figure out a little bit more of the software side of things. But if you already have a job with the antique store and that's kind of your day job, and you want to work and you want to design for fabric, I would say maybe your option is to just like pitch your portfolio to different fabric companies, and maybe you do more of the art licensing route. Would you be more open to that?
Absolutely. I mean, it was just that because I have no connections and I didn't know where to go, I didn't have the guidance, and this was the first person that kind of seemed like it could be a mentor or networking opportunities. So it was very exciting, mm-hmm. But then my gut was saying, maybe you should think about this a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds like it's maybe not. I mean, my gut says to not work with him because I just don't see how. It sounds like he wants a piece of the pie, but he's not really bringing a lot of value to the table. Like if I don't know, these aren't even products that you're interested in. And so if he was a fabric supplier, I might say, okay, well then you could work with him. He could do the, supplying part, and you just have to focus on design and selling. But if he's not even helping you sell, I really don't see the value in working with him. It sounds a little sleazy, to be honest. I'm going to share my screen with you one more time. And also let you know, you've talked about not having connections, not having that network, and I would suggest that you maybe try to sign up for a trade show when you're ready. You might want to sharpen up your Photoshop skills first, but trade shows are really such a great way to connect with people, and you meet so many buyers, so many companies. And what's kind of it's what's kind of nice about quarantine and everything right now is that these shows are all going virtual, which means they're way, way, way cheaper than they normally are. Like, I went to Blueprint in May of 2019, and the show alone cost me $1,200 to exhibit, not counting travel and hotels and all of that. And so this year it's $180 because it's virtual. So like anyone could apply for that. So I would recommend, doing these virtual shows if you can, just to meet companies. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you can learn more about the show, but there is a list of attendees. So these are all companies that are going to be looking at work. They're looking to purchase artwork from buyers, which means you can either license your work to them or you can offer it as a buyout. Now, some companies only do licensing. Some companies only do buyouts. A buyout means that they buy the copyright, so they buy the artwork from you in full. Licensing means that you still own the artwork, but they basically rent it from you for 1 to 2 years usually in their category. So you can do either one. I mean, companies work a little bit differently, and some artists prefer to only do buyouts or to only do licensing. It can be a little bit confusing when you get started out, but ultimately it's up to you, and I think the best way to learn is just by doing. And so this is a whole list of companies that are going to be at Blueprint. There's also Surtech's show, which happens in February. I don't know if they are going to be going virtual or not, because it is in February. I think that they're waiting a little bit to see, kind of how the pandemic is playing out. But look, there's Shannon McNabb. But yeah, I mean, you can look at Surtech's. Another one is Print Source, and they are doing a virtual show. Yeah, they're doing a virtual show as well. So there's a lot of different shows, and this is like the best way to network and meet companies. And so if you want to pitch your portfolio to them, and just like keep your day job to pay the bills, but just like build, some of your fabric collections. Of course, there's other things you can do. You could upload your work to a site like Spoonflower. I don't think artists make a ton of money from Spoonflower from what I've heard. But, if you wanted to kind of practice and put your patterns onto fabrics and then order a sample, that might help you kind of get your feet wet and say, okay, like, I like the way this is looking, or I need to revise this and tweak it a little bit before you, feel confident to pitch to companies. But that's really what I would recommend. The guy that's trying to push you, he just sounds so salesy, and like, I don't like it when, people try to push you too much and it's not something that is ultimately like the goal. So that would be my advice. Thanks. Awesome. Well, do you have any other questions about kind of getting started with your fabric designs?
I think you covered it. I think that was really helpful.
Okay, good. Someone's saying the screen was my Facebook page. Oh, no.
Oh. I think just for a little bit,
guys,
maybe.
Okay, well, I will upload a screenshot then of the pages I was looking at. I'll upload some links. But does anyone have any questions while we're live about becoming a fabric designer? Jenny says, oh my gosh, such a huge tip about the trade shows. I'm from that industry and never thought about the fact that I would be able to take advantage of the virtual events being less expensive. Such a great idea and opportunity. Yes, honestly, I thought I wouldn't be able to exhibit again this year, but then with it being virtual, I was like, well, why not, you know? And I'm also working with an agent. So normally when you work with an agent, you don't go to trade shows anymore because the agent goes for you. But I thought if I can just like meet with buyers one-on-one and show them my artwork, because agents are showing all the artists that they represent. So I just decided to do it because it was so cheap. Louise says, hi, can we pitch work in shows such as Blueprint that already have for sale on print-on-demand sites such as Redbubble? It's not really recommended. If you haven't, what I would suggest is if you have not had any sales yet from a site like Redbubble, I would just take the artwork down and then show it at a trade show, like Blueprint. So if you've already had a lot of sales on, you know, artwork that you have on a site like Redbubble, I would say maybe just do a different version of it, at least make it 30% different. But companies, I mean, they are paying you money so that they have exclusivity on some level to that artwork. Now, if they do a direct buyout and buy the copyright, they definitely probably wouldn't be interested in that. If they're doing something that's a totally different product, like if they're selling rugs, and I'm not even totally familiar with what all products Redbubble sells, but they might not be as worried about it if the product is like a completely different category. But in general, I try to keep those two things separate. So, Louis says, do you have any tips on how to find an agent? So, yeah, there are, let's see. I would try to Google a list of agents and then try to do a little bit of research on them. I actually met my agent at a trade show because I happened to be in Las Vegas for a bachelorette party, and there was a trade show, a licensing trade show going on that same week. Yeah, I know. And so I was like, well, I might as well just extend my trip and just walk the show and see, like, I was trying to see if other artists were exhibiting at this show. And it turns out they weren't, but there were a lot of agents. And so I talked to a lot of different agents at the show. Yeah, and so if you could also make it down to, I mean, right now, most shows are going virtual, right? But yeah, I mean, you could just try to do some online research and research agencies that represent artists and try to find someone that's kind of in your genre. Lisa says, I have only ever sold outright, would love to have licensing deals instead. Any tips on how to do that, please? Hi, Lisa. Yeah, so I would recommend going to a trade show. That's like the best way to meet different clients who are interested. Some clients will only be interested in buyouts, but some are open to both, and some only do licensing. So really going to a trade show is the biggest bang for your buck, right? I mean, you can also make a spreadsheet, research companies, and then just basically cold email companies and try to pitch your portfolio and say, hey, like, I'm interested in licensing. Now I would recommend having a lawyer look over a contract if it does get to that point, and just make sure that, you know, it's good for you and them. But you can also work with an agent to do that. They'll do the contract stuff for you so that you can feel pretty safe that your agent does this for a lot of artists and they know what they're doing in terms of contracts. But yeah, I mean, either going to trade shows or cold emailing companies is the best way to get licensing deals. And I would reach out more to manufacturers, wholesalers, that type of company. They work with a lot of licensed artists, and occasionally if you're a really big name, like a big retailer like Target, will do a licensing deal with you. But Target works with so many vendors and so many manufacturers that usually it's easier to get, if you're a smaller name artist, it's easier to get licensing deals with manufacturers. Louis says, amazing. Thanks, Lauren. So helpful. Andrea says, hi, do you have any advice for someone who wants to become a surface pattern designer but does not come from America but from Europe? Good question. So when I went to Blueprint back in May of 2019, we had some European vendors. Some people from France were exhibiting at Blueprint. So I would, again, try to find trade shows. It might mean overseas travel. you know, if those are the best trade shows, but Europe has trade shows as well. I'm not as familiar with the trade shows in Europe, but you can definitely do them. I know artists do them. So I think just finding which trade shows work the best for you, and with quarantine going on right now, they might be doing a virtual show, and it is so much cheaper and like easier to get your name out there with a virtual show. So Lisa said, I had an agent, but they only sold outright. Okay. That's interesting. I'm surprised. My agent is like very anti-buyouts. They're like, no, we pretty much only do licensing. So that's interesting. Well, yeah, you just have to find the right agent for you and how you want to work. Some artists like doing buyouts because you sell the art and it's just done. You know, you make the money, it's done, you get paid right away. Licensing is like a snowball effect. It takes a while to like, you know, build up enough revenue. And a lot of artists, I mean, some artists do amazing and are like, you know, making millions on licensing, but that's rare. Most artists cannot live on licensing alone. So if you do want to do the licensing route, it's just you earn as much as you sell. And so, you know, it could be exponential, but, you know, unless it's like a major bestseller, a lot of times companies now are moving product a lot faster than they used to. So I would say like back in the early 90s, you know, you might, if you got a licensing deal, that might sit on the shelf for 5 years. But now like companies are turning product faster. It's kind of the fast fashion, you know, thing. So it's a little bit harder to get the longevity out of licensing deals. But, you know, if it's a bestseller, you could earn a lot of money from it. So it really just depends. Licensing, yeah, so some artists do prefer to do buyouts. It really just depends on your preference. I'm open to both personally, but if it's an artwork I really, really, really love and feel like it's strong, I'd probably prefer to do the licensing because I keep the copyright. So that's just me. But yeah, yeah, you guys are welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for coming on live with me. And yeah, well, we should do another live one soon. I like going live with you guys. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching the Design Tribe. If you have any more questions about what it takes to become a fabric designer, drop me a comment below. I would so love to hear from you. Also, to get more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and click the little bell to get notified every time I come out with a new video. If you'd like to participate in Facebook Live events like all of the awesome members here of the Design Tribe, then make sure to head over to facebook.com/groups/Design Tribe Lauren Lesley. Lesley is with an EY, and I will approve you once you answer all 3 questions to join the free Facebook group where we do Facebook Lives like this that are value packed. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I will definitely see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Love you. Bye, guys.